We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the April 11th, 2024 meeting of the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners. My name is Kevin Cook. I serve as the chair this year. Joining me today is Commissioner Aaron Mays. Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Bill Rippon. Good morning.
Morning.
Also joining us is our Madam Clerk, Ms. Beck. Good morning.
Hello.
And County Councilor, Ms. Record.
Good morning.
Madam Clerk, what is our first item?
First item is item 3, consent agenda.
We have several items listed on the consent agenda. Are there any questions or is there a motion?
I'll move to approve. Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed. Motion passes 3-0. What is our second item?
Item 4, new business A, County Clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments.
This morning, we've got vouchers totaling $3,117,560.84. There's several items to note on there. Under building and maintenance, $96,000 a Wildcat painting is for the pool prep and painting. Under building and maintenance, $85,000 to L. Underwood LLC. That's for the Horseshoe Bend Park. That one is partially grant funded. Under bridge project, $536,223.56 is to King Construction. That is for the bridge over the Wakaroos River on South Topeka Boulevard. Under detention facility, $190,000 to Samco is for upgrades to the HVAC system at the annex. That is 75% complete and is funded by ARPA. And then under sewer districts, $350,927.10 is to Havens Construction Company. That is for the Sherwood Sanitary Sewer Rehab, and that project is 80% now. I don't have any questions or concerns. I've moved for approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed. Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed. Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item B, Department of Corrections number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-135-2024, an amendment between Community Corrections and Scram GPS monitoring to provide real-time tracking and monitoring of individuals under supervision. This agreement is at no cost to Shawnee County.
Good morning, Steve Willis, Department of Corrections, oversees Community Corrections. We are already working with Scram GPS services on the juvenile side. This just adds the adult services to that same contract. GPS is just an alternative to jail. Oftentimes it's used. We are a graduated sanctions program. This is just one of those other opportunities to help monitor those that we are supervising to ensure they're following the court's order.
Indicates that it was no cost to the county, and you want to talk about how?
Absolutely. This is a grant, Community Corrections, for the majority of it is a grant-funded program through the Kansas Department of Corrections and state grant funds. So the money that we have through our grant funds from the Kansas Department of Corrections will be used to pay this.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed. Passes 3-0. Thank you very much. Our next item.
Item C, Parks and Recreation number 1, consideration and approval is requested to utilize $9,950 of the Gage Park Improvement Funds for the conceptual designs of a new carousel and train depot museum at Gage Park, utilizing Falk Architects, Inc. as the county's on-call engineering and field services contractor per contract C-50-2023.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Director. So, yeah, what we'd like to do is work on putting together a design for a renovated carousel building at Gage Park. Would be essentially in the same location that it is now, but we'd be adding some other pieces to it. The thought being that we'd be able to operate the carousel year-round, which we don't currently do, so be temperature controlled. We would add a concession area. We'd add, we've talked for many years about creating a sort of museum space in Gage Park where we could house, we could clear out Commissioner Rippon's garage of all of his Gage Park photos and store them where everybody could see them. The old mini train engine, which we still have, we'd like to put on display. It could be in this space. So we think it could be something pretty special. We've utilized the parking lot that's already there next to Blaisdell Pool. And so this would be the first step of sort of coming up with some preliminary designs that we could then share with the public and start to gather some input.
At one point, we had talked about having the old mini train as a display.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The old mini train engine, I
Okay.
think, is what we would put in there.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is really to encapsulate the history of the mini train within, and also to history of Gage Park.
Yes, yes, and I'm not, I want to be clear that I'm not saying this is an absolute thing that might happen, but we would also look at there's the idea of possibly relocating the train depot to that spot. Not physically moving that building, but creating a depot as part of this project. The thought being that we've got so much traffic and congestion now at that area with the zoo entrance and the train depot, and we are gonna make some major improvements to playland, so I think we're only gonna see more people in that one spot. So there is a thought that maybe we move that depot to the other side, which may hopefully lessen some of the traffic and congestion.
Now, hold on. Before Eric Ives runs out on
Right.
Eric Ives Live and says,
Right.
train depot going away, and that's the headline we see for the next 3 days.
Thank you.
Got that, Eric? Not the headline. We're gonna get public input.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
all right,
Yeah, I know, that's a big deal, so.
all right.
Is the master plan far enough along that we could start making decisions like that? or
I
is
don't
this
think
some-
so, but my thought is we're going to have what we're calling a listening session as part of that master plan coming up in May. And we'd like to have some of these designs that we could display during that process where we could start to gather some public input.
Okay. I do not have the history information in my garage. I think President Biden has
all in his-
that.
it's in his basement.
It's in his basement.
Garage.
We know you have all the information.
Not in my garage. But anyway.
Are there any other questions?
No, I move to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed. Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item C2, consider approval of the following. Contract C-136-2024 with Norseman Brewing Company to provide services for the Adventure Cove movie event on May 24, 2024, at no cost to the county. And resolution number 2024-28 to meet requirements for alcohol permission for a 21 years of age and older only event.
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So I have Dustin White here, who's our recreation manager, and they're working on this program, this idea of having a movie night at Adventure Cove on the beach. We would not have swimming. We would have lifeguards present, just in case someone decided they were going to jump in the water, but the idea is to sort of rope that area off. This would be strictly on land. It would be for ages 21 and over. The idea is that we would partner with Norseman. We would have drinks. We'd have not just alcoholic drinks, but all sorts of refreshments. And the movie that they're planning to show is Jaws. So I think it would be a fun event, and we think it'll be well attended. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and if I can't answer them, Dustin would be happy to come up.
To the best of our knowledge, there are no sharks in Lake Shawnee.
Well, I don't think so.
Showing Jaws is a good way to keep people out of the water. You don't need a lifeguard.
That's right.
Well,
All right,
I think it sounds like a good event and follows all of our
Yeah.
rules. I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item C3, consideration and approval is requested on two separate but contingent requests. Request to utilize capital improvement bond funds for the Phase 1 design, Phase 2 design, and construction costs yet to be determined up to and including completion of the project. And contingent upon funding approval, the department further requests the acceptance and execution contract C-137-2024, the Schwartz Design Group contract for Phase 1 design of the Grange Hall at a cost of $35,000.
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So, yeah, we're continuing this project. We've been working with Schwartz Design to get to this point, and what we're asking you today is to approve, to move forward on the design phase, and there's a $35,000 fee for that. And then also to approve using the bond money to pay for that and the future project as we move forward, the construction costs. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I do have Greg Schwartz and Sherry Harder here with Schwartz Design Group, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, go ahead.
A question on the timeline for design.
Yeah,
We have
it's in here. And I don't remember it off the top of my head, Bill. I will find it as we talk.
okay.
Tim, if we can talk about the funding source just briefly while you're looking.
Yeah,
Shawnee County took out bonding of $10 million, of which part of that went towards the Oakland Pool, and part of that went to Phase 1 of Family Park. And then there is a small sliver that is still left over from those two projects.
correct.
That we would be looking at other projects within Shawnee County, because our bonding was for Parks and Recreation. So that fits within the bonding scope, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, the amount of money that we have left over, though, are you anticipating that the cost of construction are going to exceed what we have available?
Well, I think that, one, it's also important to remember that the Friends of Ward Mead have agreed to donate, I believe, up to $500,000 towards the project. And I think it would be incumbent upon us as we move forward through this process to try to keep this cost at that mark, not to exceed with the design fee, not to exceed that $2.5 million.
A concern that I think I have is what is the cost going to be for the construction? In today's world, construction costs we've talked with Kurt recently about construction costs maybe coming down, but they're still higher than they were previously. And so I'm concerned about what our construction costs are going to be, and I think that Greg and his team are going to do an excellent job drafting and drawing something up, but it may exceed what we have the ability to embark upon. And so,
Yeah, I think we are, it's very similar to you're correct, it's very similar to the Oakland Pool project and the Family Park project. We set a limit and we worked until we got down to that, that limit. And I think part of this design phase would be to identify what those costs are gonna be, and for us to then start to work together to get underneath that $2.5 million price tag. I don't anticipate us coming up here in the future and saying, well, this is a $4 million project. We'll come up here when we're ready to propose something that meets that does not exceed that limit.
my concern is that there will be individuals in Old Prairie Town that will have hopes that this is going to be an addition to their home, and what we wind up coming back with is a pup tent in the backyard.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen. I think that for the amount of money that we're discussing, I think we can come up with something that'll be pretty special, and that'll fit the overall vibe of Old Prairie Town. So I guess as we go through this design phase, if we get to the point where we don't think that's going to happen, we'll come up here with a plan. and then we'll be able to talk about whether or not we want to move forward.
Okay.
So, you know, that's really the best
Well,
that I could say right now without having a plan in hand.
and I know, having worked with Short Design Group in the past, if they come, they're gonna come back to us at some point, and if they say, look, there's just no way this project is gonna be able to be feasible based on the amount of money you have. Project costs are just too high at this point, and I know that Greg Schwartz and his team are gonna be very straight with us about what we can afford and what we can do, so.
Commissioners,
Yes,
it's 11 weeks from the date that the notice to proceed is issued.
okay.
So with your approval today, Tim can issue the notice to proceed today. It could be as quick as 11 weeks.
Commissioner Mays?
So why are we doing 2 items at the same time?
Okay. It was brought to my attention, I've worked pretty closely with Jennifer Sauer on this, that we needed to identify how we were gonna pay for this plan. And we are proposing that we use the bond funds to pay for the plan. But you guys had not approved using bond money for this project. So we're asking for, 1, for you to approve the plan, and 2, to approve to use the bond funds to pay for it.
Okay, and then we've got phase 1 design, phase 2 design.
Yeah.
What exactly is the difference there?
I question that as well. I think in my mind, and Greg may be able to speak to this more, but in my mind, we're gonna do design, and we're gonna come back here and ask you to adopt that design, and then we're gonna move forward with the construction process. So, I'm not quite sure why we have design in there as just a part of the second phase.
Okay, and then, you know, I've told you, I don't know that I feel comfortable doing anything with the construction costs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think my recommendation is that today we approve to request the utilized capital improvement bond funds for the phase 1 design. And then I'm not gonna vote to do the construction. So, I mean, I guess that would be an amendment that I would make a motion on, is to only approve the $35,000 of capital improvement bond funds for the design.
And Commissioner Mays, is that so that we have a better idea of what our costs are?
Yeah, I think by doing all of this, I mean, it's sort of putting the cart before the horse, in my opinion. So I think we do just at least approve the design, and let's see what we come up with before we approve the construction. I mean, we don't have any idea what this is gonna cost yet.
And on the last page of the document, it does lay out what phase 2 is, and it does say that phase 2 is specifically architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, design services. So,
I think we'll have a better idea of what it costs if we do all the design work. I mean,
and then phase 2 also has a submission to the landmarks.
phase
Commissioner Mays, would you be comfortable with having maybe Mr. Schwartz come up and kind of break this down for us in a more technical term, phase 1, phase 2, what it means and what it does?
Sure,
Okay.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Cook. Greg Schwartz, Schwartz Design Group. Yes, we've broken this into 2 phases, basically, of design. What we're calling the initial design is the schematic design and the design development. And what that will get you at the conclusion of that design development and what that will get you for this initial phase is a plan of what the building will look like, elevations, renderings, descriptions of mechanical systems, descriptions of electrical systems, some finish information, and a cost estimate of what that particular plan will be. And it will be our intent to work within the guidelines of your $2.5 million budget to see what we can develop, as Mr. Cook said, in that regard. And we will assure you that we will provide something that is within the $2.5 million budget. Whether or not that meets your program requirements or whether or not we need to look at other alternatives to that, that is part of that initial process. At that point, you will know what a conceptual design would be, what we would intend to complete construction documents on for bidding purposes, and you should have a cost at that time that we will build in inflation and other things. We track costing on at least a minimum of a quarterly basis. We track concrete, steel, drywall, and they fluctuate up and down. And so we will be looking at different materials in this early stages. We may be looking at alternative materials, and we probably will have some alternatives in the design itself that say, okay, if we're looking, as we go forward, if we determine that we're moving forward, that there will be some alternates in there that if indeed we get some fluctuations in prices during that bidding period, that we can make some adjustments without going back and changing the design.
Commissioners, if I may, we could make a very short addition, a term to this contract, that phase 2 will only happen upon a vote to proceed with the construction contract.
I mean, I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. I mean, I think voting today with the original agenda item would be essentially doing that. I mean, why vote to, and then say that we're gonna vote again? And just,
Well,
my
you'll
opinion, I
have to-
mean, I personally, I feel like it's probably just best to approve the design today. And then when the design's done, then we come back and do the rest.
And you have to have another vote. But I'm just trying to make sure that everyone understands that phase 2 may not happen, so why wouldn't we put that into this contract? But if you're comfortable with it as is,
Yeah, I mean,
So, Greg, with Phase 2 being part of this, is there any, what would be the detriment of breaking this up into two pieces and coming back at a later time to do Phase 2 at a later point?
There's no detriment at all to our services or what we're doing. I mean, essentially, we're following our traditional phases, and we would stop at the end of the design development. You would have to approve the design, the cost, and then give us approval to move forward with the construction documents, which is the bigger, longer phase of getting things ready to go to bid and get actual cost, those sorts of things. So it's just a delayed process from that standpoint, but really no problem on our part to break it up. We do that a lot for Washburn University and their projects, to get through preliminary design and costing, and then a determination if they're gonna move forward with the project.
Commissioner Rippon?
I would be all right with it as it is, as it's been presented. I think that would be my,
And I don't know that we're not losing anything by having Phase 2 at a later point. I think that we need to get through Phase 1 first. Candidly, my concern is it's going to be extremely difficult to build what Old Prairie Town has envisioned for the cost that we have. Everything costs more than what we think it is. And that's my concern, is what we may come back for $2.5 million may not be what we envision. And at that point, we would probably need to do some fundraising or look at other funds. So,
And that would be our responsibility, Commissioner, to bring back to you a project within the budget that you have, and you make the determination whether or not that meets your programmatic requirements, your design requirements, those sorts of things.
so. At this point, yeah,
So
go
there's a
ahead.
motion on the table.
Right. I'll second your motion to amend the proposal for Phase 1 at this point. I believe that's your motion.
Yes,
Okay.
$35,000 for phase 1.
okay, so how's that different from,
We would come back on Phase 2, so
so this doesn't, so your amendment does not approve phase 2?
we would come back for Phase 2 upon
Or
completion of-
construction.
you would just put that on the agenda as part of, well, at some point in time, you're gonna have to issue an RFP or an RFQ for the construction company. And if you get 2 votes from that, you should put phase 2 in at the same time. So it's gonna come back to you for a vote anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Okay,
Motion to amend the agenda item for Phase 1 only.
And to use capital improvement bond funds to pay for it.
and then use capital improvement bond funds to pay for that. That's a motion made by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. All opposed? The amendment passes. Is there a motion to approve the amended agenda item?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Mays to approve the amended agenda item. All second. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Our next agenda item.
Item D, Human Resources. Number 1, consider authorization to issue requests for proposals for a prescription safety eyeglass program.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Lewis, Director of Administrative Services. The DOC, Public Works, Solid Waste, and Parks and Rec are required to supply prescription safety eyeglasses for union contracts. Currently, each department is using a different method to supply the safety eyeglasses. This RFP would allow for a more efficient countywide prescription safety eyeglass program. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
None.
Motion?
I'll move for approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item D2, consider authorization to issue requests for proposals for a human resources vestibule remodel.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Angela Lewis with Administrative Services. Human Resources is requesting this RFP for our vestibule remodel. The vestibule remodel will provide additional space and added safety features in the Human Resource Office. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I think that the first question the public is going to have is, you just moved into the location and now you're remodeling it. So we want to talk about kind of why we're needing to maybe look at remodeling a space we just moved into.
It's a safety aspect, number one, and number two, we have another employee that we can employ. We have no space or anywhere to put them. By lessening the vestibule, we would have space for another cubicle to be able to fit an employee.
Okay. All right. And this is to do the RFP so that we know exactly what the cost of that would be.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Rippon,
Second.
second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item E, Planning Department. Number 1, consider approval of order to vacate Lot 1, Block A, Shawnee Heights Fire District subdivision located centrally on Southeast 61st Street between Southeast Ratner Road and Southeast Shawnee Heights Road in Monmouth Township.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joni Thadani, Director of the Planning Department. What we have today are a couple of different items, starting with number 1, which is the vacation of the Shawnee Heights Fire District. We're going to do this as a public hearing. It doesn't notify that within the notes on the agenda item, but it is a public hearing. A little background, you heard not that long ago a petition to vacate where I brought that public hearing directly to you guys without going to the Planning Commission first. This one did in fact go to the Planning Commission, and I elected to do it that way, not only because statute allows us to do so. You can take it first to the Planning Commission and then bring it to the BCC, or in the alternative, you can bring it straight to the BCC. The prior situation, there was no reason for the Planning Commission to hear it because it was a simple vacation of a road. In this situation, we actually have further items that are going to happen at a later time that the Planning Commission will be hearing. And so we felt it was important for the Planning Commission to hear and consider this to start with so that we could move down the steps of the project that they're going to be accomplishing and understand and know from step 1. So in essence, you have 2 statutes that you're looking at, 582613 and 582614, which allows someone to come in and request to vacate a plat that was previously done. So this property was platted close to 20 years ago. And the intent of the Shawnee Heights Fire District was that they were going to build a new fire station on that parcel. They did the plat, and then they came in and got a conditional use permit from the Planning Commission all about the same time. They did not move forward with development, however, and so because of my zoning regulations, there is a 24-month period where if you don't initiate development of that conditional use permit or the building or whatever was approved, it actually vacates the conditional use permit. And so they came in ready to develop, and I said, well, wait a minute, we're gonna have to go back and do a new conditional use permit. As we were looking at the parcel, I asked them, does this parcel still seem suitable for a fire department? And they said, well, you know, we would like to make some changes to the parcel. This is the subdivision as it stands right now. What they decided was that they actually wanted to do a land trade with the farmer that originally sold them this land. And what they did was they cut the top half of that parcel off, and then they took additional land to the east, and they traded with the farmer so that it ended up land for land type trade. And so this is what the new parcel is gonna look like. You can see it's extending to the east. As a part of that, then we decided, well, we need to decide, are we going to replat this parcel and encompass the full new land and take off the old portion, or are we just gonna vacate it because we don't have a requirement for a plat? And the election was that we were just gonna vacate the plat because they didn't have to have a plat to move forward with the development. So that's where we are at today. They filed their petition and asked to vacate the plat. It's going to change the shape in the future and allow them to come back in and ask for a new conditional use permit for the development of a fire station in the future. A couple of things. So pursuant to statute, we did have to send notification to utilities departments. We did that. We really didn't get much back. No one had concerns because this was just empty farm ground. Nobody was doing anything with it. So there hasn't been any development easements that we had to take into consideration. The biggest issue that came up had to do with the right-of-way that was dedicated as a part of this plat. And of course, Public Works has a huge concern anytime right-of-way that has been dedicated comes up. And so what is happening is, as a part of this plat, statute allows you to reserve that right-of-way. So even though we are going to come in and vacate this plat, and this plat is gonna go back as though it no longer exists, it never was created, we're still going to keep the right-of-way that was dedicated as a part of that plat. It seems kind of awkward, but statutorily it's allowed, and so that's how we have proceeded with this. And so the order that you would enter today would vacate the plat, but would reserve that right-of-way so that we don't lose any of that road space. We did not need to notify any individual property owners. This was the only property that was involved in the plat, and no other property owners are affected by the plat. The dedicated 52.5-foot road right-of-way shall be preserved. And other than that, there were no concerns. In the future, they will come to us with a new conditional use permit for the development of the fire station, and all proper public hearings and public notice will occur with that. The planning staff recommended approval, and then the Planning Commission heard this on March 11, 2024. Commissioner Corbett did question why notice was not mailed to neighboring properties, and he had concern that we didn't send those out. And what I explained to them at that time was that it's not necessary by law because there are no other property owners that are actually being affected by this plat or the vacation thereof. A motion and a vote was taken, and they recommended approval with a vote of 6-0. We did have one commissioner absent that night. I have no other comments in regards to this, and since it is a public hearing, I would ask that you go ahead and open the public hearing.
Just
and allow
I'm
public-
sorry. You have 3 items, and the only one that says it's a public hearing is the 3rd item.
Right.
So you really want 3
We're gonna
separate
do
public
three
hearings?
three
Okay,
separate
all right.
public hearings.
Was just looking at them.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. We misidentified that when we
After-
submitted them.
okay.
First, before we begin, are there any questions for Ms. Thadani?
How many acres is this?
It is less than 3 acres, and because the way that our zoning regulations require, if it's less than 3 acres or less than 200 feet of frontage, then you have to plat, which is why this one was platted to begin with. It was originally 2.76 acres, and it had, I can't remember the frontage that it had, but it was
It's
smaller than
50-some
what we
feet, I
required,
think.
so a little less than 3 acres. But with the expansion, with the new portion that was added on, or is being land traded and added on, it will be more than 3 acres and more than 200 feet of frontage. It's gonna be a larger parcel to allow for trucks to get in and out and the building to be situated properly.
All right. I'll make a motion to open public hearing.
Second.
Motion made to open public hearing by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. We are in a public hearing. Are there any individuals that are wanting to speak for this? I would recognize that we have Chief Flory here, new Chief Flory of Shawnee Heights Fire District.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Kevin Flory, Shawnee Heights Fire District. As Director Thaddeus spoke to, we just needed to get some wider frontage on this piece of property. Trucks that were 20 years ago versus trucks of today were a little bit different turn radius, so the frontage didn't allow us to do the proper entryways to do a pull-through fire station, so we needed to widen it out. So that's what this was about. We'll be looking to move forward here, hopefully sometime in the next year, to get this changed to a conditional use permit to place a fire station on this property.
Okay. Questions, Chief? Thank you very much. Any other persons wanting to speak in favor of this item? Any individuals wanting to speak opposed to this item? All right. Pleasure of the commission.
I move that we close the hearing and approve the order.
Motion to close and approve by Commissioner Mays,
Second.
second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item E2, consider approval of order to vacate Lot 1, Block A, rural water tower subdivision located at 7035 Southeast 79th Street in Monmouth Township.
Again, Commissioners, Jody Fedani, Director of the Planning Department. Item number 2 is in essence identical to what you heard right now for item number 1. Difference being this is for the Douglas County Rural Water District number 3. They also came to us in the fall and were wanting to, well, actually, Shad Halbert came to us in the fall and said, I want to put up our building. Here's a building permit application. And we started looking back at things and realized that there was a zoning issue, there was a conditional use permit issue, there was a plat issue. And I said, well, unfortunately, we're gonna have to take a little bit of time and make some adjustments here to the parcel before you can move forward. Same statute for vacation of plats applies. This is the parcel that you're looking at right now where the water tower exists, and then within the shadow of that water tower is actually their office building. Some 20 years ago, the water tower was put up underneath a plat, and then when the office building was built several years later, they had to come in and rezone this property to a different zone. They now would like to expand that office building to include a much larger maintenance shop. And to do so, they're gonna have to expand to the east, which takes them into another parcel of land, which they purchased a few years ago. So same situation happened. We have to come in and either replat the whole parcel to encompass the entire 2 parcels, or we need to vacate the plat. And once again, we elected that it was gonna be better to vacate the plat because you no longer needed the plat pursuant to our zoning regulations. Again, individual property owners were not required to be notified because none of them were affected by this specific request. We did send out notice to utilities and other departments, and the same situation came back in regards to the dedication of right-of-way. There is a buried copper cable that runs within the right-of-way, so although there isn't a separate easement on this one, we did have concern that if the right-of-way is not preserved, that could mess up issues with the easement that was being used through that public right-of-way. So on this one, what we're asking is to vacate the plat, and as the order would preserve, I believe it's a 40-foot right-of-way on this one. Yes, 40-foot right-of-way. Planning staff recommends that you approve it with the condition that the 40-foot right-of-way be preserved And then this one was also heard by the Planning Commission on March 11, 2024, and it was recommended approved with a vote of 6-0. One commissioner was absent. And I'm not going to go into detail about the further plans that we have for this property because we have another rezoning matter that involves the same applicant following. And so if we can just go ahead and hear the public hearing for the vacation on this one, then we will go into further detail on this property in the next item.
Any questions for Shawnee? Okay, I'll make a motion to open public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed. We are now in a public hearing. Are there any individuals wanting to speak in favor of this item, of the vacation?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Shad Halbert. I'm the General Manager for Douglas School Water District Number 3. The reason for this is because we had bought the extra land. We're needing to expand. We've grown, needing places to put more inventory, put equipment, stuff like that. So that's why we're asking for what we're doing. Vacate the subdivision, give us more room to grow.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Any other individuals wanting to speak in favor of the item? Any individuals wanting to speak opposed to the item? Okay. It is the pleasure of the commission.
I would move that we close the hearing and approve the.
Motion made to close public hearing and adopt.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed. Passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item E3, public hearing and consider approval of resolution number 2024-29, the rezoning of 7035 Southeast 69th Street in Monmouth Township from ONI1 Office and Institutional District to RA1 Rural Agricultural District.
Commissioners, Shawnee, Director of the Planning Department. So this one ties in directly to item number 2 that you just considered and approved. Again, they're expanding their office building so that they can include a larger maintenance shop and break room on the parcel that was just vacated. Again, here is the small parcel, and if you see the spot to the east and south of it, that is actually the additional land that they have purchased a couple of years ago that they have the intent to expand on to the east. This one is a rezoning case. So we go to our normal zoning statutes and regulations where we send out not only public notice via the Metro News and the newspaper, but we also send notice to anybody within 1,000 feet of the property. We did not receive any comments back from anybody on this one. Here's a tiny mock-up of what it's actually going to look like. You can see the big blue circle is the water tower. The blue rectangle is the existing office building, and then the items in the green to the east are going to be a break room and then the expansion of the maintenance shop there to the east. They've also identified on here where the existing septic tank is and laterals, and then they're going to have to add additional laterals for the expansion in the future. 7 letters were sent to property owners within 1,000 feet. No responses were received, and again, when it was heard by the Planning Commission, no one appeared in favor of or and against to other than the applicant. We had no concerns with this rezoning. Now, a little history here. Current site was developed with the water tower in 1991. It's under a special use permit case. It's what we now call a conditional use permit. Back in the day, they called them a special use permit. We don't require them to come in and get a new special use or a new conditional use permit because the one that they have is appropriate and is existing, can continue as it is. About the same time, in 1991, they platted, and you just vacated that plat. Then the property was actually rezoned, the small portion of it was rezoned from RA to ONI so that they could put their office building in. And in my reading of the history of this, it appears as though the planning department or the planning individuals at the time decided that because it was an office building, that they needed to rezone the parcel to O&I. In reading our regulations, there's actually an allowance under RA that allows us to do this within the RA district, and so it really makes a whole lot more sense to keep it all RA, which is what everything surrounding it already is. In the middle of the country, to have an O&I classification is spot zoning. It's awkward. If the water district were to ever leave and move out of that building and go somewhere else, that building, as it sits right now, could actually be used for any use under the O&I use, even though it really makes no sense. So instead, by rezoning this to RA, we're putting it back to where it used to be and where it really should be so that it fits with the mold of all the properties surrounding it. Had we not downgraded this back to RA, what we would have had to have done is come in to do a rezoning to expand the entire parcel to O&I, and instead of expanding the full parcel to O&I, it really made more sense to just take it back to where it should have been to begin with. No concerns by staff were presented with this request. The use is not inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. There's no increase in traffic that's anticipated. While they will be able to expand and use the building in a more sufficient manner, it really is going to be utilizing it for what they've got out there, storage of equipment and supplies, and give it a safer location to keep all of that. Instead of it being outside, it'll be able to be stored inside. It meets with the character of the neighborhood, and it's really been developed in this same situation since 1991. We recommend approval of the request with no conditions attached. And then the Planning Commission heard this on March 11, 2024 and recommended approval of it with a vote of 6-0 with one commissioner absent. And I have no further comments on this unless you have questions.
Questions for, good. I'll make a motion to open public hearing. Is there a second? Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? We are now in a public hearing. Are there any individuals wanting to speak in favor of this item?
Commissioners, Chad Halbert again, General Manager of Douglas for Water District 3. Yeah, I think Ms. Thadani covered what our intent is and what we want to do. It's a central location in our district that we cover both in Shawnee County and Douglas County. Allows us to put everything in one location since we've grown in the last few years, and that's our intent. That's why we purchased the extra land to do it at the time it was available.
Any questions?
All right.
All right, thank you. Any other individuals wanting to speak in favor of? Any individuals wanting to speak opposed to? Seeing none? Motion of the commission?
I think this makes sense to move it back to RA, and so I would move that we end our hearing and approve this change.
Motion made to close and adopt by Commissioner Rippon.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners.
Our next item.
Item F, Public Works, number 1, consider awarding Bettis Asphalt and Construction Inc.'s bid for up to 9,000 tons of BM2A hot mix asphalt for purchase in 2024 at a unit cost of $71 per ton, subject to asphalt oil price adjustment, and a potential maximum expenditure of $639,000. Funding will depend on where the material is being used.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Neaps, Director of Public Works. Last week I came before you with road oil, and if you recall, the price for road oil had decreased from last year, which was great news. Unfortunately, when we received our single bid for asphalt, the price has continued to increase. The increase was such that I contacted Bettis and I was able to negotiate a slight decrease. It's still higher than I like, but that's, sometimes we have to live with that. So with that, I would like approval from you for a unit price of $71 per ton asphalt, 9,000 tons, and at that price, maximum quantity, we would spend $639,000. I look forward to your questions.
Questions?
Just to clarify, this is up to 9,000 tons.
That's correct. We're not obligated to buy 9,000.
You recall what the price was last year?
It's listed on the memorandum.
Yes, it is.
5.6% increase.
And 10.7 over 2022.
Right, so I think it was 67.25 last year. And then it went to 72.50 according to the bid, and I was able to negotiate down to 71.
All right. Well, I don't know that we have any other options, so I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item F2, consider a request to issue a request for qualifications for design and construction engineering services related to a culvert replacement project on Northwest 94th Street over a tributary to Big Soldier Creek.
Courtney House, Director of Public Works. As you know, the first step in the process to replace the structure is I need to come before you requesting approval to solicit RFQs for design. This bridge is located on the Jackson-Shawnee County line, so the cost of the project will be split between Jackson and Shawnee County. Of course, the vast majority will be paid for by us because I believe the costs are proportional to the total appraised value of properties within the respective counties. The existing bridge is a timber bridge. We don't like timber bridges. There are some counties in Kansas that used to have hundreds of timber bridges. They're pretty much an obsolete design. They may work in rural areas with very low traffic counts, but as farm equipment and machinery have gotten larger and heavier, they don't generally perform very well. And as you know, they are susceptible to rot. So with that, I look forward to your questions.
With that all being said, Kurt, how many timber bridges do we have left in Shawnee County?
Well, let me clarify something. If I use the word bridge here, I was totally incorrect. This is not a bridge-sized structure. It may look like a bridge,
Culvert.
but from a technical standpoint and from a federal highway standpoint, it's a culvert. It's not inspected. And as far as your question goes, I don't know. I'm sorry. If you would have said how many bridges, and truly that was correct, I could tell you exactly. But since these are culverts, we don't have quite the detailed information on all of our culverts, so I cannot answer that question.
Well, I can say by looking at it, I would feel much more comfortable driving over a concrete box than what's there currently.
Sure.
So I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item.
Item 5, public comment.
Are there any members of the public wishing to speak? Come on up. Just please state your name to the clerk.
Henry McClure. Good morning. I'm working with a group that has made a $7.6 million offer to buy the hotel that the city in their infinite wisdom purchased. The group, I've tended in my life to only work for rich people. They qualify. They've got money to renovate the hotel, and I'm collaborating with them with another group that has the funds to assimilate the properties to the north that have the ag hall and the other land that's contiguous to the hotel and the event center. And I'm not sure how the city offered TIF for the hotel. I don't know if they'll be able to find blight, but if if there's blight at the hotel, for the land that I'd like to acquire in the buildings, there would have to be blight. And then we'd also ask for a CID. I'm not sure that I have my hands on it. I don't really remember. we were talking with the Stormont Bell people and the people that run your venue, and there seemed to be some openness to the group I was working with. It cooled off due to some other things. But now with the hotel coming together, I'm trying to pull everybody together, there'd be an opportunity to do something very nice and really change the whole complexion of that area. I really need to get, there's a study somewhere that says, well, if you're gonna, what will make the event center successful is to renovate the hotel and then provide an entertainment district around there so that when people come down to a show or an event, there's more things to do. So I wanted to talk to you about it. I want to try to figure out how to work with you guys, open up the discussions, because this could really be cool. I'm a little disappointed how the city's treated the client that is trying to buy the hotel. They made an offer back in March and never heard anything from them. And it's so bad to negotiate against yourself in business. But I said, and their first offer was a little lower than what the city paid. And I just said, well, look, just to keep things moving, go back and just offer them what the city paid for it. And we still didn't get any response from them. It's not been a friendly group to deal with. The consultant that is paid $540,000 up front, or part of a deal, lives in Miami, and all they're doing is pushing the DoubleTree. So I'm not sure that it's a DoubleTree market. And one of the most odd things about trying to buy a flag is that you got to own the property. And based on some of the past economic development we've done, all the box movers, out at the Commerce Park, we've become a box moving community and maybe not the quality that DoubleTree wants. So we want to do the best we can to put the best flag we can there for the hotel. And then once that's in place, that deal's in place, then renovating all the property to the north really could make this into a really nice entertainment center and upgrade the event space. There's a large capital improvement that's going to be made need to be made to the Ag Hall, because I think a corner's sinking. But I really want to dig into this if we can get the hotel done. I think there's 2 suitors for the hotel. They went into executive session yesterday, and Mr. Braxton said that they did have 2 deals on the table. So we'll see how that goes, and I hope that maybe we could do something with the county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other individuals wanting to make public comment? Our next item.
Item 6, administrative communications.
Are there any department heads or Shawnee County?
Tim Lorette, Parks and Recreation. So tonight, Tulips at Twilight begins. It'll run April 11th through the 28th, but there is a change this year. That in the past, it was open every night. This is just on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings only. Again, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And there will be live music every night that they're open. So come on out, enjoy it. Should be a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Joni Thadani, Director of the Planning Department. I wanted to put a bug in everybody's ear and let you know that we have been moving forward with making plans to do a public hearing on our wind farm, solar farm situation that has been occurring over at the Planning Department. As you are aware, a few months ago, there was, we've been having discussions about whether or not wind farms and solar farms are suitable for Shawnee County. And a few months ago, the Planning Commission directed me to move forward with the concept of a ban on wind farms and then a one-year moratorium on solar farms. And we are at the stage now where we're ready to present a report to them and to allow them to discuss and hear public comment. That public hearing is planning to be held at our normal scheduled Planning Commission meeting, which is on Monday, May 13, beginning at 6 p.m. The biggest difference is that we are expecting that there would probably be more people attend than our normal meetings, and so we are going to host it at the Great Overland Station. So again, that will be Monday, May 13, 2024, at 6 p.m. at Great Overland Station. We will publish notice in the paper as is required by statute. I will work with our communications department to get out some media releases, and we will also be sending out hundreds of emails to people who have requested information on wind and solar farm. And if anybody has any questions, please reach out to me at the planning department.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, we will be live streaming the meeting. I've been working, I actually, thank you, Mark. We've been working with IT in a great detail, trying to figure out how to make this work and where to make it work. And we will be live streaming the meeting that night. And so if you're not able to attend, totally okay. You don't have to come just to listen. You can listen to it from your house. We will live stream it that night.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Good morning, Commissioners. Larry Moss, Shawnee County Treasurer. Spring is here, and the second half taxes will be due on May the 10th. We mailed out the statements last week. You should have received your statement by now. If you have any questions, you can call our office at 251-6483 or send me an email or the email at the office at trtaxdiv@snco.us. And for anyone new to Shawnee County, we will allow you to pay your taxes by mail, online, in person, or through our drop box at the courthouse. And we will accept cash, check, credit card payments. So any questions?
Questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other administrative communications this morning? Commissioner Rippon.
Not much to report. I drove down to Arkansas to watch the eclipse, the total eclipse. It was fascinating, and you know, when the temperature drops about 15 degrees, it's dark. You can actually look at it with the naked eye once it's totally covered. And I didn't see some of the features they usually talk about, but I could see the little red solar flares around the perimeter of what looks like a dark ring. But it was fascinating, and some bugs came out all of a sudden that probably normally come out at night. So that was interesting. But,
Hopefully you left the bugs in Arkansas.
I left all the bugs in Arkansas.
All right.
I did, so
Very good.
that's it.
Commissioner Reyes?
I had that great groundbreaking yesterday for Family Park. Thank you to our media partners for being there and covering that. I think it was a good time and big crowd. We had a lot of people there, so great to see.
Yep. I just might note, Shawnee County does not own the Hotel Topeka, and we do not have a consultant for Hotel Topeka. That is a City of Topeka, so if anybody was confused, I just want to make sure you understand, this Shawnee County does not own a hotel or have any sort of management over a hotel. So, I don't have anything further. Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item 7, executive session.
We have 2 items for executive session. The first is a personnel matters of non-elected personnel. Those are for department head evaluations, and that will be for a period not to exceed 2 hours. And then we have a second item, which is consultation with an attorney for the body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship as it relates to preliminary discussions of acquisition of real property, specifically to review reports and recommendations regarding the purchase of real estate, and that will be for a period not to exceed 20 minutes, for a total of 2 hours and 20 minutes. Is there a second?
Are you going to be doing the consultation with the attorney first?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. We will start our executive session at 10:20. Ready? We are back from executive session. No action was taken. We are adjourned.